What the Sam Hill's going on here?
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Lois and Clark Rewatch, dedicated to the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on ABC. Join us each week as we investigate the origins of the Man of Steel and uncover crime in Metropolis. Send your feedback to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or follow us on Twitter at rewatchpod.
Oh, hey! Let's get back to it.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Lois and Clark Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm Zod. Kneel before... No, I'm Nor. Kneel before... I don't know who I am.
Generic Kryptonian number 3.
Exactly.
Welcome back, everybody. We had a bit of a Christmas, New Year's break, but we're coming back for season 4 of Lois and Clark.
The final season.
Ooh, getting into it.
Yes. I'm nervous about this final season for you, because I know you said you don't remember.
Well, this week's headline reads, Lord of Earth. And we're discussing Lord of the Flies and Battleground Earth. But we've been off just for a little bit, so quick little follow-up.
Yeah, so we have a little plug here for our former TV show that we covered, Sliders. Over at earthprime.com/reborn, there's some new stuff over at that site. Now, just as the Zoomway site and the Zoomway forums have been a source for us during this TV show, earthprime.com was a source for us during our Sliders rewatch. And while we were over there and on their forums, we met a guy named iReactions, and he's been ever helpful, since then. And he's actually a writer, not just a guy who likes sliders, but he really, he's a really good writer. And he decided, when Sliders had ended, he wanted to continue, the show. Like he didn't want to see it end. Like a lot of us, like when our favorite shows end, we want to see them keep going. And he wrote a couple scripts after it was over. And there was one called Slide Effects, and there was another one that dealt with actually if the sliders had landed in our world today in the United States with the presidential election and everything. And the thing about it is, there's fan fiction and then there's really good writing, okay? And there's some fan fiction out there, you read it and you're like, well, all right, it's not bad. It's the characters in name, but they don't act like the characters that you know. But he has a really good handle on the sliders and Quinn Mallory in particular, so that when you're reading it, it doesn't seem like it's like a fan-made thing. It feels like, yeah, Quinn Mallory would have said this. Like he really understands the guy behind, the guy. So I liked those two scripts there that he had written, and now he's come out with this whole new thing called Sliders Reborn, sort of like a reboot of Sliders, if you will. So if you go over there to earthprime.com/reborn, you can read those scripts. I think there's 6 scripts. They're of varying lengths. Some are real short, some are really long. So if you are a fan of Sliders and you followed us over here, from Sliders to the Lois and Clark show, definitely go over to earthprime.com/reborn and check out the Sliders Reborn scripts. So you'd have a good time with those. Like I said, they're very, very well written, and like you can feel like this is actually the characters that I guess grew up with over 5 years watching the show, because they act like the characters on the show.
Yeah, and of course we did a special episode around the Slide Effects script.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that, and we did some scenes. We pulled some lines from the script and everything and sort of reenacted it ourselves, and we had a bit of fun with that. And
we actually tried to act like good. Like we didn't try to like be silly and do voices. We actually acted like real, as real as we could anyway.
Yeah, and we talked about maybe covering Sliders Reborn when he'd finished it up. They aren't quite long, so we'll see how we go. We don't want to fall back on our responsibility to this show of rewatching TV series.
Right.
Involved. So maybe we'll see how we go. But yeah, definitely go and check out Sliders Reborn. I've glanced at it. I haven't actually gone in depth, but yeah, they do seem like very solid, well-written scripts. So yeah, check them out if you're a big fan of Sliders. All right, well, let's get into season 4 of Lois and Clark. Our first episode today is Lord of the Flies, written by Eugenie Ross Lemming and Brad Buckner, directed by Philip Scrigia, and this originally aired on September 22nd of 1996.
Zara?
Yes, Kella?
I'm not sure what to do here.
I see. And are the intimate habits of men and women on Earth so different from ours? This fact never appeared in my briefing manual.
That's not what I meant.
There are techniques to help couples. Your cable television shows are most informative.
Please. If you were Lois, I'd know exactly what to do. It'd be natural. But this whole thing, you and I together, we're not a couple. We're a political solution.
So your heart isn't in this?
My heart? No, my heart is waiting for me back on Earth. Lois is my heart. I was an outsider there, incomplete, until I met her.
You saved yourself for her.
Yeah.
I saved myself for Lieutenant Ching. It's very Kryptonian, actually. You see, my heart isn't in this either.
Then we're agreed. Not partners in bed, but partners.
Partners. And friends. I hold you in high esteem, Kal-El.
Forgive the intrusion. I don't mean to interrupt your handshake.
As Superman begins to acclimate himself with the custom and rituals of New Krypton, Earth begins to feel the impact of a world without a Superman. Clark and Zara, both knowing their hearts lie with other people, agree that they will not consummate their Kryptonian marriage, but instead act as friends and partners to get New Krypton back on its feet, while Lois, with the help of Ching, manages to find a way onto Clark's spaceship/palace to be reunited with her love. Lord Norr soon arrives on planet Earth, having heard that he would have great superpowers on the planet, and his reign begins by first taking over Smallville and renaming it New Krypton, and then making the residents, including Jonathan and Martha, his slaves. In order to prevent interference from outside powers, the Kryptonians create a force field blocking the town off from the rest of the world. The U.S. Army attempts to attack but are quickly humbled by Lord Norr and company, who then go on a rampage around town, destroying all they see, which leaves Clark, who has received word of Norr's attacks, to come up with a deadly solution to defeat the evil Superman, Kryptonite. Unfortunately, there's a traitor amongst Superman's ranks, a Kryptonian named Jen Mai, who is loyal to Norr and works with him to get rid of Superman forever.
Ching, they took him away. He was here and they took him away. And do you have any idea how much cookie dough ice cream I've eaten tonight? Where is Clark?
In the palace?
I don't see any palace.
That would be correct.
Ching?
It's cloaked, so that even now it is hovering undetected over the city.
Well, I gotta tell you, seeing him for less than a minute was almost worse than not seeing him at all. Almost, but not.
Yes. Kal-El, too, said he was very bummed.
Bummed. He was bummed.
He feels your absence deeply. I tried to tell him that a Kryptonian must disregard his own feelings.
Oh, right. Like you're not sick inside that Clark's married to the woman you adore. How's the marriage going, anyway? Any squabbles, tiffs, door slammings?
Zara and Kal-El do not have time for tiffs. Lord Norr is here.
Why?
When he learned he would have superpowers on Earth, it made conquest too tempting to resist.
Well, we have to do something. We have to tell someone.
Earthly force is useless against him. And if Kal-El cannot successfully lead our men against Norr, then he will colonize your world. Then all our dreams, yours, mine, and Clark's, will be lost. This is why he had to leave you. And yes, it does make me sick to see Zara with Kal-El. But not as sick as if both our worlds were destroyed by Noor.
So this isn't just about your people anymore, but mine as well.
All right, so let's investigate this one.
All right, so in the beginning, when Lois is having that dream and they come out of the dream and she's miming the hug, the embrace that they were having, it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be just her opening her eyes and seeing that it was a dream. And I don't know if I like... well, we'll talk about it when we get to the discussion. Yeah. Anyway, so that it was supposed to be her opening her eyes. Anyway, I thought this was interesting. And this sort of goes back to when we talked about how Clark had the Kryptonian flu and Lois could sense when he was awake. In the script, it said when Clark is being briefed by Ching and he's saying, you have to do this, and there's this guy who's in charge of this, and da-da-da. All that stuff was supposed to be intercut with a scene of Lois in the planet, the Daily Planet, and she suddenly, like, you could see her react, and she says, it's starting. It's happening right now. It's all going to change. Everything's changing now. And it was supposed to, like, further the link between them, that she knows kind of what's happening to him, even though they're, far apart. I like that. I don't know why they cut it out, because it follows with what came before. Where they had that kind of minor, or just beginning psychic link together. I like it.
Try to make it tie back to, that's what it was back then.
Yeah, and like with the whole thing about Kryptonians having telepathic powers, it makes sense. So I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. When Ching instructs Clark about what to do when meeting the delegation, they start to walk up. He was supposed to be whispering. In the script, it said you're supposed to whisper these things to Clark, palms up, all that. But instead, in the actual aired version, he just talks in a normal voice, and no one seems to hear it, or else they're just ignoring him, And the same thing happens later. Zara and Clark are talking, and it's scripted as a whisper, but again, it's spoken aloud in normal voices, and no one reacts. They're ignoring that. It's TV, as iReaction said. There was a missing line, which I was like, what the hell is this line? I'm like, these script writers, I don't get this one. When Martha runs off to find a payphone after the Kryptonians attack, she runs out to find a payphone, but she yells back to Jonathan, "Don't let them get the ding-dongs."
They can have the Snickers, but...
Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? Like, why? That's such a weird line to have in there. Don't let them get the ding-dongs.
Weird.
Don't let them get that. I don't know. That's
Clark likes them, so presumably all Kryptonians must like ding-dongs.
I guess so. It's just weird. I mean, that's something, I don't know. That's something just to say. Drop into normal conversation somewhere. Well, I'm going to go to lunch. Don't let them get the ding-dongs. It's like, all right. All right, so Perry, when he sees Lois in the concubine dress, he's like, Lois, In the script, she was supposed to say, well, I wanted an interview with Superman. And on their planet, interviews are done in Romanesque cocktail dresses. So she has an excuse for why she's dressed like that. Now this, I was wondering about this. So back in the last episodes of season 3, we had Ching. And, of course, we have Ching again here in episode 4. But they're played by different actors. In season 3, we had John Tenney, who played Ching. And I think we talked about it. He was married to Terry Hatcher at the time. And then in this season, we have Ching again, but now he's played by Mark Keeley, a different person. And I never even knew that there was a change because they look so much alike. They're very close. It's incredible how good they got, someone to fill in, for that actor, because they do look so similar. And there was even a shot of it. I was Googling pictures of both of them, and I think it was Zoomway, actually herself, who posted a side-by shot of the two of them on the forums, and they look like they could have been brothers. Like, it's so close. I'm like, wow. So anyway, I was wondering, like what happened, and we had theorized maybe during the break between the seasons they got divorced or something. And even the Superman homepage said that they had gotten divorced during the hiatus between seasons. But looking at his Wikipedia page, which I know Wikipedia is prone to not being correct, but in general I think it's pretty good. The crowd control or crowd helping out, making sure things are done right. It said that John Tenney and Terry Hatcher didn't get divorced until 2003. So that would have made sense that they got a divorce, earlier and then again later. So that I don't think that's why they got a different actor. I was looking at his IMDb, and it shows that in 1997, John Tennant got a show called Brooklyn South. And it seems like he was a regular on there. So that could have been why maybe he couldn't come back as Ching. He had, to do work on that. And that was 97 when it premiered. So presumably in 96, this episode, he was probably working on the show, I imagine.
Yeah, so it's like they had him on the show, but they hadn't written season 4 yet. So
right.
It wasn't confirmed yet that Ching would return. Then when they went ahead and wrote it, found they couldn't get the actor back, they had to scramble to get somebody else.
Right. And I don't know if that's why he couldn't come back. I don't know. I know that John Tenney and Terry Hatcher had some marital issues, so maybe that was a reason why he didn't come back. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting to take a look at that a little bit there. So finally, we have Droll in this episode, the long blonde-haired Kryptonian. He's played by Eric Allen Kramer. And do you know who that is? You ever hear of him before?
He does look very familiar.
He's usually in sitcoms and things as like, generic, big, bulky, strongman guy. But he played, back in the 80s, he played Thor, like the actual Marvel Comics Thor, in a TV movie. It was Thor versus the Incredible Hulk. Or no, it was called Return of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I've got that one on DVD, actually.
Yes, exactly. That's him. Oh, if you haven't seen it, if you have not seen it, you got to go check it out, because his version of Thor is basically like, drunk high school quarterback Thor.
Yeah.
Like he wants to drink, he wants to, just smash things. He's not super heroic. It's a different interpretation.
See, I knew I'd seen that guy somewhere.
I'm Lisa Gibbons, coming to you live from Smallville, Kansas.
Judas Priest, scooped.
My very special guest today is Lord Nor of New Krypton. Welcome, Lord Nor.
Thank you, Lisa.
So what brings you to Earth?
We're a caring planet, Lisa. An advanced culture, sharing its bounty with a more primitive one.
Mr. Nor, the tough questions. Why a force field? Why over the entire city?
Well, I don't have to talk to you about crime, Lisa. The field is basically a protective device to keep the town safe from intruders.
And not to keep the people of Smallville in?
Well, that's up to them. But needless to say, it would be vastly safer for them to remain inside.
And how would leaving endanger them?
Well, they'd be killed. By me.
These people are your prisoners.
Well, prisoners is such a pejorative term.
What would you call them?
Students? I aim to educate the people to accept me as their unquestioned ruler.
And what more do you want?
To educate the entire world along similar lines. Well, in fact, if there are any kings, presidents, princes, or interested world leaders listening, we really should get together to discuss the rapid transfer of global power to me.
You can't expect legitimate heads of state to accept this situation.
Indeed. And if there's any doubt, we'll start killing 2 quivering citizens of Smallville every day until we get a polite response. Starting with these 2.
What are your feelings about being executed?
Alright, so let's get into the main story. And this week's lead, Kryptonian Chaos.
Yes.
Alright, so at the beginning, we said we're going to talk about it. Lois waking up from this dream of Clark.
Yes. It felt awkward to me, the whole miming the hug and everything. I get what they were going for. It looked awkward to me, and I was just like, that's weird. When I read about how it was supposed to be, like just her opening eyes, that makes a little more sense to me, I think.
Yeah, but I think what they're doing is they're setting up here that Lois, she really misses Clark. They've been through so much, they still aren't married, and he's been pulled away yet again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, she's so distraught about it that she's actually playing out the actions of her dream while she's laying there or something. That's how intensely she misses him.
I think it would have been great if they had kept that whole scene in with about how they have that link, because then it would make more sense that she's experiencing it, because maybe on his end he's experiencing the hug as well. It would have been, I think that would have been nice if they just kept consistent with that.
But that's not what's happening at all.
No. No.
Because Clark is heading up to the mothership, which is a palace. And, of course, they're calling him Lord Kal-El, and they're trying to prepare him for what's going on. I have to give a shout out to the music. here. They've got this, like, the Kryptonian theme or something like that. Like, it's like I don't know, like this grand epic version of the Superman theme or something. And they play it a lot. And they do like a full Star Trek the Motion Picture thing where they try to like sweep around the palace and try to show you all aspects, like how good is this miniature? Woo! As they come into it. So yeah, I mean, what do you think of the palace ship?
Oh, I thought the palace ship was fine, but the music, I think the music was really well done. The one thing when I was looking into some of the feedback and everything, it had mentioned how it does feel like when they do the shots of out in space, it's very Star Trekky. Like it sounds like Star Trek type music.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the composer, but there's a famous Star Trek composer that they had mentioned in this review, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It does sound like that guy. So yeah, I thought it was well done.
And I thought this was kind of cool, because they. They're in that orb ship and it sort of, goes down into a thing and Clark's there and he's like, can we sort of keep this low key? Yeah. And we kind of get back into this whole thing of how Kryptonians are very much led by tradition. We're talking about this at the end of season 3. Like they're very steeped in tradition and they do things a certain way to stick with tradition. And he's like, we'll do this low key, but of course, everybody's there and immediately they're brought forth to the council of elders in this big like medieval style ceremony.
Yes. Well, the way that they're dressed and everything, it actually reminds me of the Superman animated series, like especially in color, like the black and the red and everything. I remember that's how when they did the flashbacks to real Krypton in that cartoon. That's how they looked. They had the black and the red, and it was. I thought it was pretty good. It's a little too royalish for me. Like I know that's what they were going for, that they are like royalty and everything like that. That's not my favorite version of the Kryptonians myself. I like when they're pure scientists, that type of thing, without the royal aspect put in there.
Yeah, and it's like you were saying in the trivia as well. This whole thing of like they're kind of, because it's tradition. Like, it's just assumed that Kal-El is going to be their leader. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He married Zara, his, what do they call it? Like, child bride or something like that. Like, when they were born, they got married. And they're going to have to go through this ceremony again. It's all a big to-do, This is all official.
Right.
And they're all just going to go with it because this is their tradition. So, yeah, it's interesting, but, it's ultimately going to be their flaws, that when it comes around. We'll get into it as we move forward. But, yeah, it's interesting. And then, of course, all this is juxtaposed with Lois getting increasingly frustrated because she's talking with Ralph?
Yeah.
Who the hell is Ralph?
Yep. He's just a random staffer.
I wonder if he's going to come back.
I don't think so. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
Like, we haven't seen Diane in a while, so maybe.
There you go. That's right. I forgot about Diane.
Maybe Ralph will stick his head in at some other point. Just for the sake of it. But, like, Clark's been, quote unquote, on a story for like half a day, and Ralph's hitting on her?
Yeah. So that's the whole thing about TV, It's been like, half a year or, almost a year between seasons. But to the actual characters, it's only been like a day. So it hasn't been that long. It has been long for the viewers, not for the characters.
Yeah, I just love that. Of course, she has to come up with this story for why Clark's not around. So he's out in the streets seeing if crime is getting bigger because of Superman or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
We get back into this whole tradition thing with the Kryptonians as Kal-El and Zara are led away to consummate the marriage.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really good scene where, he's talking about like, hey, Zara, I don't really know what to do here. And she says, well, your earthly television stations have like pretty informative videos. And he's like, no. If you were Lois, I would know what to do. It'd be natural.
Yeah.
But how about, we make a deal here. This is political. Our marriage isn't for love.
Yeah, no, Dean Cain did a good job. Like, he's definitely, like, you could see throughout this whole episode that he's come a long way from the first season as far as acting goes. The way he holds himself and delivers his lines and uses nonverbal cues to indicate things. Like when he goes to meet the Kryptonians and everything, he looks just like more confident in who he is. It's really well done.
And that's the leader guy. What's his name? Trey. Like when he walks in as well.
Yeah.
And he's thinking like they're going to be in the full throes of it. And he says, "Sorry to interrupt your handshake."
Yes. Yeah.
It was a good scene. But at the same time, it's like, they're so bound by traditions, yet he was so willing to just come in and interrupt them during the consummation process just because we have to do something, like
right,
whatever it was. Probably something to do with Nor.
Yeah.
Because next thing is these guys, Droll and Ran,
yes,
are down in Smallville, and they sort of, I guess, get a little forefront information before Nor and his army arrive and sees Control as a god.
I don't know why. Again, when they had the assassin Tez in the last episode, and I said, why didn't they just use Lobo? Like someone who's established, in the comics. And with this, it's like, we've got Nor. Why didn't we just use Zod? Because he is Zod. I mean, he's definitely taking cues from Superman, from Terrence Stamp, as Zod. And like, if you think about his outfit that he wore, it's just like Zod from Man of Steel. It's like a very similar outfit, the dark black and the high shoulder pads and everything. It's funny. It's Zod, but it's not Zod. Zod, not Zod. That type.
The thing I mainly noticed is his emblem. He has it appear above the town square or whatever it is. And I noticed that it's the diamond shape of the Superman
upside
S,
down,
but it's upside down, right? So you're like, okay, I see what you're doing there. He's like the reverse of Superman.
Yes.
But he I don't know who this actor is.
I didn't recognize him.
Kind of cliche to make him British as well. I mean,
right.
Is he from north of Krypton or something? Like,
yeah, they all do. Some of them have British accents, some of them don't, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Even Krypton is regional, just like Earth, so different accents. But he pretty much seizes control of Smallville, puts a dome around the entire city, and claims it as his own. And while this is going on, Ching goes and meets with Lois. And they kind of have a bit of a heart-to-heart about all this that's going on, how he is sickened to see Kal-El and Zara together, and
yes,
their feelings come to the forefront. Zara was talking about it with Clark, Ching's now here talking about it with Lois, and he's the one who sort of gets her into the palace with this concubine lore. So, I don't know. What do you think of all this stuff? Sort of getting Lois and Clark back together again.
Well, yeah, it's good to have them back together again, because that's what we want. We want them back together again. The concubine thing is weird. Like, it doesn't seem like, I know that's the whole thing. This is a different version of Krypton than I'm used to. This is a royal type, house, royal type version. So I guess, I don't know, back in, they had concubines, I guess, in the ancient times and stuff like that. But I still, it's hard for me to get away from thinking of the Kryptonians as just pure science focused and almost like Vulcans, very logical, thinking things through. So it just seems odd to me that they would have concubines. But again, this is a different take on it. So I go with it. It just was odd to me because I'm not used to that.
Well, and I was also thinking, I'm like, are these all Earth women or are they Kryptonians? Right. I mean, Lois is from Earth, so did they just go down to Earth and abduct a bunch of women to be concubines?
Exactly. You guys, hey, you guys, I know we can get into that club over there, but hey, want to be a concubine for an alien? Come on over here. They're not going to let you in over there.
We'll take you to
filled
our
up.
space palace. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jimmy, he's got the nose, he's onto it, brings the story to Perry about Smallville, but before they can act on it, Nor gives an interview to Lisa Gibbons on Sunrise America.
That was kind of interesting.
This is, I don't know what to make of this. It's funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to be serious or if they were trying to be funny, because Nor...
Yeah, funny. I think they're trying to be funny.
the guy's got charisma, right? When he's given this interview, where he's he's playing it very forefront, like I do appeal to any presidents or kings or princes out there, and maybe we could get together and have a polite discussion about the smooth transition of power.
Yes.
I really liked it, but I'm not sure if it fits or not.
Well, I forget if it's in this episode. I think it's in the next episode when they hand out the flyers for the welcome to New Krypton. It's like another joke that's like, it's kind of funny, but I don't know if it fits in the whole overall story very well. But yeah, it's all right.
And we do get one feigned attempt at penetrating the force field around Smallville as well. Colonel Cash.
We knew that wasn't going to go anywhere.
I know, right? Is Colonel Cash from the comics, or is...
I don't recognize the name at all. No.
Yeah,
no.
Whatever.
If they had done this in the comics, I'm sure it would have been Lois's father, because he's a general in the comics. So I'm sure it would have been him, leading the attack.
But they do get some dodgy flying effects here when Drull and Ran and Nor show up to sort of destroy all the tanks and stuff, and they kind of just...
Yeah.
You can tell they're just hanging by wires there in front of them or something. It didn't look good. But Lois and Clark infiltrate Smallville. Not sure how they got through the force field. Maybe Superman can just fly fast enough to get through it?
Yeah, because you have to think the, Nor and company, they got out of the force field to go face, Colonel Cash to talk to him.
That's
so
a good point.
Must have something to do with Kryptonians or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but Lois was with him. So.
But maybe if he's touching a Kryptonian, you can go through that type of thing. I don't know.
We're not supposed to think about this, I think.
Exactly. We're not.
But they sort of infiltrate as, posing as fellow hostages. And they've got, Martha and Jonathan trimming the golf course with scissors and stuff. And Nor's playing golf, and he's like, I could really come to love this game. It's bizarre. This whole, he's taken over the town, but what does he do? He just plays golf and makes everybody do slave things for no reason.
Exactly.
He doesn't need the golf course trimmed. He's just doing it because he's got slaves. It's all just a weird group of circumstances, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's just, it was like, why are they using scissors? Well, whatever.
Not to mention that they're all slowly dying of thirst.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
Nor just doesn't care. It's like, if you got nobody to rule over, then what's the point? I guess he just doesn't care about humans. He just really wants the planet so more Kryptonians can come. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like you said, he wants to rule the entire world. So I don't know why he's just focused on just this little patch of grass, but whatever.
Whatever. But of course, Clark, he can drill a well and stuff, and his parents help out, getting water and whatnot. And he thinks, maybe he's got this worked out. But then this slimy guy named Jen Mai betrays him and tells Nor all about his parents. And I think this is maybe where Nor becomes his most menacing. He has that whole thing about, I want your planet. I want your life. I want you gone. I thought that was probably the best part of it. The real confrontation between the two of them.
Yeah, like I said, I think he did a good job. He's just he reminds me so much of Terrence Stamp as Zod in the second Superman movie. So I'm like, I wish they had gone that way totally. But yeah, he does a good job. And
the mystery of it all, you don't know what he's going to do. They did have this thing about the kryptonite over at Star Labs. Like, they mention it in this episode. We'll find out more about it in the next episode. But there's this underlying mystery of what's he up to? What's his major plan here? We don't quite know. Does he want to kill Superman, or does he just want him gone so he can take over? Right. Or what? You don't really know. And that's what makes it great for a two-parter. We talk about this a lot. Wouldn't it be great sometimes if they just did two-parters? And thank God they let this play out over 2 parts.
Exactly, because it lets you do a bigger story, bigger story.
Okay, so a couple of quick bylines for the episode 2. The whole thing about Zara having to walk 2 steps behind Kal-El.
Yeah.
It's very ancient woman tradition kind of thing. Right?
It is. Yeah, it is. Very. I thought that was interesting. It reminds me of an episode of Quantum Leap, where Sam leaps into I think it was a sailor, and he's with a a Japanese woman who, when she walks with him, she walks behind him. Like, she won't walk next to him. So, it's very old tradition customs. Yeah.
It was interesting, just those little touches of these traditions that they threw in there.
Right.
And lastly, on the bylines, Lois thinks Jimmy knows who Clark is.
Yeah, this was good.
It was a very odd conversation where he's like, Superman's gone, Clark's gone. You don't think. And you're just like, where else could he be going? And he's just like, I'm just thinking maybe they'll just both burn out. And I'm like,
yeah.
Seriously? That's where you went to, Jimmy?
Well, he's not a reporter yet, so.
Seemed a little bit too forced to me, it was forced just to make the joke. So I was a bit
yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, shall we do this week's quote vote?
Yes.
What's everybody standing around for? This is a newspaper, not happy hour at Buckingham Palace. What are we here, the Daily Planet, or second stringers from the Weehawken Gazette?
Am I making myself perfectly clear?
All right. So we had a good bit of time for people to vote on the quote vote, and we got a fair few votes. I think the most votes we've ever had, actually. So on both of our Facebook pages, the Lois and Clark Rewatch and the main Rewatch Podcast Facebook page. So thank you, everybody, for voting.
Definitely.
And that means we have a clear winner. So cue the music.
Vincent Price and Bobcat Goldthwait are held hostage. Sean Connery is brought in by Christopher Walken.
Sean, honey, are you all right?
Are you two all right? She looks at their shackles. Could you at least get them some chairs?
On my planet, we do not get hostages. Chairs?
You know what? I don't like your planet. There, I said it. Sean walks over to bring the hostages chairs. I know you're supposed to be so intellectually advanced, but I think you're a bunch of creeps. And I'm sorry that Hick ever gave you the time of day, much less sacrificed everything to save your stupid planet. So, are you going to shoot us over a couple of chairs? I don't think so, because we're the only hold you got over my friend Hick, who'd be out here in 2 seconds to mop the floor with you.
Ah, well said, Sean. Here, here, honey. Yay.
I was waiting for that. Awesome.
And
scene.
Good scene. Good scene.
Yes.
Well done. All right. Well, let's get into our second episode discussion. The episode is Battleground Earth. Again, written by Eugenie Russ-Lemming and Brad Buckner, directed by Philip Scrigia. Good continuity behind the scenes as well as in the story.
Yes.
And this originally aired September 29th of 1996.
Lord Nor, this is Zara.
What?
I hereby order you to open the force field. You are here without authorization of the Council of Elders and have much to explain.
It's Zara. They're here.
Not only to me, but to your people.
Ching! Could you have a talk with the guy who hands out the suits, huh?
Shh. Oh. Sorry.
The entire council joins me in warning you not to resist our... Jimmy, we are trying to communicate.
Look, before you go invoking the law, the council, and everything that's sacred, let me extend to you my sincerest welcome.
Nor's letting him land. What's he up to?
Words of reason, Lady Zara. I fear Lord Nor's been judged too harshly.
While Lois finds out that Star Labs was recently robbed of its kryptonite supply, Superman finally faces off Lord Nor, but not in physical battle, but rather a courtroom battle in which Nor accuses him of treason and conspiring against Krypton. His case is proven by private conversations between Clark and Lois and Clark and Zara, resulting in the court's tribunal declaring him guilty and sentenced to have his atoms spread across the galaxies. While the sentence is carried out, Ching comes forth with a legal loophole that states if Kal-El was not informed of certain rights, the verdict is illegal, and thus a duel using a weapon called the Dray is scheduled. While their battle rages on, Lois learns that it was the military that stole the kryptonite and turned it into a gas they plan to use to take out Nor, and by extension, Superman. The duel rages on with the superior trained Nor seemingly ready to deliver a killing blow to Superman, but the Man of Steel gathers his strength and pushes back and defeats him. Nor's followers show up and grab Lois, shooting Superman with their heat vision, while the kryptonite gas bomb is released, knocking all the Kryptonians down, including Superman. Luckily, Nor's gang absorbs the majority of the gas, allowing Superman to survive with minor injuries while the evil Superman die.
My lords of the Tribunal of Elders, the evidence is all too clear that Kal-El and Lady Zara did willingly enter into a cynical pact to delude the people of New Krypton and place Zara illegally on the throne.
That's a lie. Everything I did was for the good of New Krypton.
And who would you be to judge what is good for New Krypton? My lords, Kal-El was raised on Earth. He's a virtual half-breed. Awash in the primitive teachings of these simple rustics.
You watch your mouth.
He's the best son we could possibly hope for.
No doubt. My lord, to anoint Kal-El our ruler is to place an Earthling on the throne.
I am proud of how I was raised. If I knew nothing of Krypton, it's because I was sent here as a baby.
Your heritage was preserved for you in the ship you arrived in. Writings, holograms.
In a language that I didn't know.
You mean a language of no interest to an Earth child? The same child who would grow to be a man and give his heart to an Earth woman. Do you deny that you're in love with this creature? That you had her smuggled into the palace as your concubine? That you plan to marry her? In direct violation of Kryptonian law?
Silence, silence! There will be order to these proceedings.
I left her on Earth. I left her to bring peace to your planet.
Did you now? And wasn't that a ruse, too?
Told you I'd come back.
You did kiss me. Don't ever leave me again.
Alright, so just a few points in the investigation on this one.
So Nor had that line about how New Krypton was a good temporary home, and Ching was supposed to yell at him saying how, our home was not temporary, and then Nor's men were going to go to rough him up for, talking back, and, Nor was like, oh, please do not lash him for his boldness. Even though the law demands it, let him go, It's just an extra line, didn't really need it. Doesn't add anything, really. Superman, when he arrives for the confrontation with Nor near the end, he x-rays the surrounding buildings around the planet, and the sound effect was used, but the visual effect wasn't there for some reason. I don't know if they forgot to put it in there or whatnot, but it wasn't there. And that's something that I had read about. iReactions, of course, sent us all this script screen stuff, but I had read about that as well when looking back for the back issues for the feedback back there. Mm-hmm. Someone had mentioned that they didn't see the effects either in this one, but then they saw it in this scene. It was like they remembered the effects being there when it was aired, but not when it was actually out on like DVD or for some reason.
Yeah, it happens again at the end when Droll and Ran show up because Nor is obviously losing the fight, so they're going to change. And they use their heat vision on Superman, and there's no like red laser beam coming from their eyes, like the sound effects.
Yeah, it's strange.
So it's like maybe they were rushed or something. They didn't quite have the time to finish all the effects, so they were just like,
yeah,
the sound effect will do. People know what's going on.
Exactly. Very strange. Very strange. So now this kind of goes against, the way Superman is viewed in this show. Like in this show, as opposed to like the new Superman movies, everyone views Superman as a good guy, right? Like pretty much everyone across the board, except for the villains, of course, sort of look at Superman like, oh, he's the best. He's so helpful. What a guy. It's very Christopher Reeve-ish, Yeah. But this little scene here that they cut out, all right, sort of goes against that. And it shows that that there are some, quote unquote good guys who are thinking, well, we might need to contain his power. So Lois asks Perry, did you ever hear a rumor when the kryptonite was first deposited over at Star Labs that the government wanted military codes, military access codes to it? Perry answers, well, I recall there was some fear that Superman, who was pretty much an oddity at the time, might go berserk and use his superpowers against us, and the military wanted assurances that they could stop him. And I thought that's interesting that they, had that scene in there, because it does mirror kind of like, modern tellings of Superman, how they want to make sure that if he goes berserk, we need to be able to control this alien, So it was interesting that was in there, and they decided to cut it out. It goes really against the whole view of Superman in this series.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk again about, modern interpretation of Superman as we get into this episode.
Okay.
Lord Trey, there's been an oversight. The court must allow two nobles vying for the throne to settle their differences privately.
Yes, an ancient law was never used. In any event, Kal-El didn't request it.
He didn't know of it. I barely knew of it.
As a traitor, he's lost the right. Stripped of his title. The verdict is irreversible.
If he was not informed of the right before the trial, the verdict is illegal.
Alright, so let's get into the main story. And the lead here, Kryptonians concluded. So, Nor, rather than battling Superman, is going to take him to court.
Yes.
For high treason.
This is where we have the crossover with LA Law. They came in. And...
I thought it was quite funny when he's laying this out, about treason and, Kal-El, you're under arrest, and then he arrests Zara as well, and it's Martha says something like, this is unfair, and Nor turns around and goes, does anybody else here hold Kryptonian law degrees? I didn't think so.
That was good.
But yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about, like getting into the modern interpretation. I mean, in Batman v Superman, it was humans bringing him to court. And we've seen Superman brought to court by the humans in season 1, right?
Mm-hmm. True, yeah.
So, yeah, here, Nor feels that he has a solid case. And again, it's bringing back the traditions of the Kryptonians. They're so steeped in their traditions that he feels he has a solid case and they've got no choice but to hear him out. So, I didn't mind this.
No, I thought it was good. I thought it was a neat way to go because we all want a battle. We want the big battle, but you can't just throw that in at the beginning. You got to build to it.
And of course, the whole reason for Nor wanting the battle is so he can take power.
Right.
And it can't just be a case of him swooping in, killing Kal-El and being like, okay, so now I'm leader. Ha ha ha.
Right.
They would probably throw him in jail or something. So even he understands that he has to do this diplomatically. And skipping forward a bit, of course, he's going to succeed. But, it's his actions afterwards that are going to be his downfall. But, in the meantime, he's taking the diplomatic approach. And of course you think, what's he got against them? They haven't done anything wrong. It's that whole thing about, Superman's the good guy, right? What's he done wrong? Clark still worries that Nor is oddly confident about this. And this is where the whole missing kryptonite thing comes back in. They're like, does Nor have it? Maybe.
Right.
If worse comes to worse, he would use that. Holding it like an ace up his sleeve. So, it's getting back into that mystery thing of what's going on here. We've got the reveal of what Nor's plan is, but there's still all these lingering questions. And at the Daily Planet, they turned it into an Earth Defense Headquarters.
Right.
And I thought this was pretty cool. The whole thing about Perry, walking around I know you're trying to save the world, but this is still my newsroom, damn it.
Exactly. It's why would they turn the planet into their Earth Defense Headquarters? I'm sure there's other areas they could have used, that it just seems odd to turn a newspaper into that that place.
Yeah.
Where they could report on everything that they're doing, It's But, that's because it's the Daily Planet. We need, familiar set pieces. So.
And this is where the heavy use of that music comes back in because, Kal-El comes walking in his new black outfit and everything.
Oh, it was a really good entrance.
Yeah, and he's totally in on it. This is where we pretty much get the whole thing with Trey and Jen Mai and, Jen Mai's questioning, what are you up to? Why should I do what you say? And Superman's like, I'm your commander. And you can tell that Jen Mai is definitely the one he's going to flip.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I thought Jimmy was pretty good in this too. He's got that nose for news thing going, and he manages to sort of weave his way into tagging along as a member of the press.
Yes.
He even manages to get himself an outfit that, unlike all the other muscle-bound Kryptonians and their tight, their tight outfits, his doesn't quite fit properly. I thought it was very fun.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was very funny.
So, when Zara comes in to confront Nor, the council, appears to be favoring the desire to live on Earth. They're really buying into what Nor's selling them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He lays out his case, and I think he does a pretty good job, right? He talks about, like, diluting the royal bloodline and all, you know, he's got the recordings of their deal to, you know, just have a political marriage and all this stuff, and Clark's encounter with Lois back on Earth and promising to never leave, and like he makes a pretty solid case, right?
Yeah, he does. He lays it out very logically because that's what he has to do in order to win. Of course, we want that. You know, we want Kal-El, you know, and Zara to not get together. We want Lois and Clark to be together. So for us, we're like, yeah, we want that. But it makes sense that from their point of view, from Nor's point of view, that's, you know, treason. It makes sense.
Yeah, it really does, you know, just from that traditional aspect. You're just like, well, you know, he does make a solid case. But at the same time, I think it goes back into that, like, this is like 1996 now, and like saying, you know, back in the day, like, this is the way we did things. We get it, tradition, blah, 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 blah. But how about we get to an age where, like, we just, you know, maybe forget some of that old world thinking and decide that maybe, you know, we don't need Kal-El. Like, we don't need a man. You've already got Zara there, and she's been living as a Kryptonian forever, whereas Kal-El has not. Yeah, you know, it's this kind of like gradual, like we're going to gradually move towards that. But in the meantime, they're found guilty of treason. Like, in their eyes, it was treasonous. And that means that the marriage between Zara and Kal-El is annulled. So Nor can now marry her. And he's so creepy. And Kal-El is sentenced to be disintegrated and have his molecules scattered amongst countless galaxies.
I thought that was interesting. I was probably thinking, like you were thinking, that they would use the Phantom Zone, you know, to imprison him. Maybe they just didn't have the budget to, you know, create that type of effect of the Phantom Zone. I don't know. Again, I don't know why they don't use things that are established, you know, in the comics already. But, like, I thought this would be a good way in the comics to, like, depower Superman. You know, because in the comics, he got really super strong back in the 60s and 70s. He could do anything. You know, it's like it was impossible or near impossible to come up with like criminals that would like, you know, be a good match for him because he was so strong. So if they had done this in the comics, it would have been good ways to depower him down, you know, by scattering his molecules. And when they come back, he's still strong, but maybe not as strong because he got spread out, you know, amongst the galaxies a little bit. I thought that would have been a neat way to do that, but they don't need to do that in this. They don't need to depower him in this show because he's not super, super strong in this series, you know? It's a little different. But I thought it was fine.
It does make you wonder if he has his powers when he's in the palace. You know, is that, you know, set to, you know, Kryptonian style atmosphere or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Is he depowered when he's there or not?
That's
we
true.
don't really know. You never really see him use superpowers in the palace, but whatever. But, you know, of course, it's all a big fake out.
Yeah.
You think he's going to be disintegrated, but, you know, it's the 11th hour. Ching comes in like, hey, there's this obscure law that says two nobles can, you know, fight it out just with each other. And since Kal-El didn't know about it, then his sentence can be revoked. So, you know, problem solved. And of course, Trey, he kind of wants this to happen at this point because, like I was saying, immediately after taking power, Nor's just like killing Kryptonians. He's negotiating for the surrender of Metropolis and all this, and he's just like, oh god, what have I done? It was in your face the whole time, and Zara was telling you this was happening, but yeah. It seems that all the Council of Elders were just so blinded by their traditions that, Nor was able to get around them, you know, make them see what he wanted them to see. So Ching doubts that Clark will win in a battle, and they get into this whole thing of the Dray Masters, this fighting style with these sticks.
Never heard of this before
This is not Superman law.
No, this is like very American Gladiators, I think. You know, I just remember that show.
Yeah, later on when he grabs the end of that stick, you can totally tell it's just foam rubber. But
yeah.
The props in this one weren't so good.
No, definitely not. And I'm like, I don't know why they would. I guess if you were back on Krypton, you wouldn't have superpowers, so that's why they have the Dray, you know, the Dray Masters or whatever. It's just, it was kind of cheesy to me that they were fighting with those.
Yeah, and of course it's playing on like Superman's ideals. He doesn't kill.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't have it in him. It's not who he is. But you know, the main blow of the Dray Master is to be completely in the moment, ready for the kill, and do it. And it makes this big like whirring sound. flashes and then you do the death blow. So it's something to say, like, could Superman do this? Could he kill Nor if he has to? Because that's kind of the rules of this battle. It's an okay conundrum to put him in, I guess.
Eventually, he is able to deliver that, I guess that sort of killing blow to knock him out, right?
Yeah, he doesn't kill him, though.
Yeah.
Because the big reveal, it was the army that stole the kryptonite, and they've made a gas with it. So they figure once they're all together, we can just hit them with a kryptonite gas, and we'll take them all out. Superman included, because we need to get rid of these bad Kryptonians. And, of course, Lois, finds out, and she just... she needs cash in the balls.
Yes.
And runs out to tell Superman about the gas.
Yes.
And, of course, it hits, blah, blah, convoluted thing. They fell on you and absorbed the gas, so that's the reason why only Superman survived and everybody else died.
Exactly.
You're just okay, that's just a quick wrap-up, right?
Yes,
Whatever.
Exactly.
And, of course, Superman didn't kill anybody, so there you go. I don't know if it's because the council felt like they were so easily seduced by Nor that suddenly they were just happy to let Zara marry Ching and let her rule.
Yeah.
Because they just let Clark go after that. It's whatever.
It's
We're done.
heck with tradition.
Yeah. We're done with tradition. It screwed us over now. Fuck it.
Exactly.
And then we have to do it. Clark and Lois back on Earth. Gets down on one knee and says, Lois, will you marry me? No plans.
Yes.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Do you reckon we're there? Do we think it's going to happen?
Oh, I know. I know it's going to happen. But it's it takes, we've been in this situation already. And when he first asked her to marry, it just he used that up, in that episode already, the whole marriage thing. It's not you knew it was going to happen. So it wasn't oh, so shocking, so romantic that he actually did it. It's you knew it was coming.
We'll talk about it when we get to what next week's episodes are anyway.
Yes.
But for now, bylines for this one. Lois gives Rand, absolute shit over getting chairs for Mother and Jonathan. We did it in the quote vote.
Yeah.
I thought Terry Hatcher was great in this scene.
Oh, yeah. It was really good.
Are you going to kill us over these chairs? I don't think so. My friend Kal-El will come out here and mop the floor with you. And the actor playing Rand as well. He was just so taken aback by the whole thing.
No, it was definitely a good scene. Now, we mentioned a little bit about the Nor.
Yeah.
We didn't know who he was. And I looked him up, and basically he's had some bit parts here in TV shows and movies, here and there as a character. But it seems like his biggest thing is his name is Simon Templeman, and his big thing is he does voices for video games, a ton of different video games, different versions of World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, Wolfenstein, Diablo, all these big video games you always hear about, Mass Effect. So he does voices in all these different video games. So that's kind of interesting. That seems to be his main thing that he does here.
Well, there you go. So he's had a bit of a career outside of this.
All his TV show things seem to be one episode here or there, maybe, some recurring characters here and there, but nothing major. Just, it seems like the video game thing is his thing.
Well, there you go.
Marry me, Lois. Let's not plan. Let's not wait. Let's not let clone makers or psychiatrists or women who shrink people into little people keep us apart. Just marry me.
That's precisely what I was thinking.
All right, well, let's check out some back issues, hey?
All right, so I basically just put these all together because they're basically the same episode, the same story. There were some comments on the one about Zoomway. She had some comments about how Lois and Clark was up against the hour-long Third Rock from the Sun and the show Touched by an Angel, and so the ratings are dropping steadily for ABC, where Lois and Clark is shown, and they weren't. She wasn't expecting this episode, these two episodes, to do very well, even though she liked them. She liked the return of a mix of humor and romance and action all together. It's just that it seems like they're just not doing very well with the Lois and Clark show these days, at least back then. So yeah, she had some comments about that. Someone else said it really feels like Superman 2, and they didn't like that the bad guys had powers so quickly, while for Clark, supposedly it took him, years of exposure to the sun to get his powers.
Right.
Whereas here it's like, the bad guys show up and boom, they have powers already. Some people felt like it ended too quickly. They wanted to keep Lois and Clark apart more, which I'm like, no, they've been apart enough. We don't need any more of that. And then the writers, okay, now this is something. Jenny Ross Lemming, in some interview somewhere, had said continuity wasn't really important. And in another interview, Brad Buckner admitted that they didn't really watch old episodes because they didn't want to worry about confusing new viewers with callbacks to previous characters and plots. Why wouldn't you? It's like, come on. So yeah, it goes to show, like we talked about this with Sliders too, about how continuity is just not there, and it could be. It's like, why do they make the choices they make? But whatever case, it continued here with Lois and Clark. And then there was some talk of the ratings, because like we said, the ratings were not doing so well, and people were wondering what's going to happen to Lois and Clark. And there were some defenders who said, well, even when ABC puts other shows on against Lois and Clark, they lose as well. So it's not just because, Lois and Clark is up against these shows. It's happening all over, basically, is what they were trying to say.
And I think all in all, you and I are in agreement that these 2 episodes were pretty good. It was a pretty
I like them.
Solid opener for the season. Yeah, and especially being a 2-parter. They really let the story play out over those 2 nights, which was excellent.
I think it all goes into what you're looking for when you go into the episodes. If you're looking for strictly the romantic, shipping type episodes, you might be disappointed. It's not quite that way anymore. They're trying to get a good mix of the action and romance.
Yeah. All right, so our next issue, the next episode is called Swear to God, This Time We're Not Kidding.
Yeah.
And then followed up by Soulmates. So I'm willing to bet Lois and Clark are going to get married. For realsies this time.
Yeah, and this is one of those episodes that I'm interested to see. Do you remember this one at all?
No, not at all. I mean, just going by the title, I mean, they really...
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet they are really trying to drive it home that Lois and Clark are going to get married this time. We're not messing with you anymore.
Exactly. We're done jerking you around. It's going to happen. And I just remember some things from this episode that I'm still to this day, I'm like, what? So I'm interested to see what you think about this episode.
Fascinating.
And then Soulmates, I'm sure it must have something to do with since they just got married, there's got to be something with maybe an ex-lover or something coming into play and testing their relationship.
Exactly. Going back to that thing of now that we're married, can we do everything as a team or something like that?
Exactly.
Truly soulmates or something.
Right.
Drive it home that they are the perfect couple now.
Well, we'll find out next week, because that is it for this issue of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or facebook.com/Lois and Clark Rewatch. Don't forget you can follow the show on Twitter at Rewatch Pod, or visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has links to some of our favorite sites there, such as zoomway.net, the folc.wiki.com, and the supermanhomepage.com, as well as links to our archive of film rewatch episodes.
Yes, and Nathan and I have been having a great time talking about Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder movies while we've been on a break over the New Year period. So coming over, we have a lot of fun talking about those movies. And in the meantime, remember you can always write us an email or record a voice message. We'd love to hear what you think. Send it over to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And also, if you've enjoyed the show, maybe give us a rate and review on iTunes. That's always very helpful. And of course, you can help support us by heading over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast and make a monthly contribution as little as $1. And of course, our entire back catalogue is up on YouTube, so you can just search the Rewatch Podcast and subscribe today. All right, Tom, great to be back talking Lois and Clark. A couple of great episodes this week, and I'm really looking forward to rounding out this season and ultimately this rewatch.
Yes.
All right, so that'll just leave me to say until next time. I need to have a talk with the guy who hands out the suits.
We gotta fly.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with Warner Brothers Television, ABC, Gangbuster Films Incorporated, or Round Delay Productions.
Don't believe everything you see on TV.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use.
Let's get legal on this.
Music provided by Kevin McCloud at incompetech.com.
Great shades of Elvis.
Copyright 2017, the Rewatch Podcast.
Wear your beepers. We'll be in touch.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Cory.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Cory. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/rewatchpodcast.
Thanks, everyone.